Sun Devil fan Sandy Charles here for DevilsDigest.com, and I'm joined by our publisher, Hode Rubino, as we break down ASU's loss to USC from today. Final score was 31-26. Now, Hode, got to talk about the elephant in the room. Would this have been a different outcome with Jaden Daniels at quarterback?
Yeah, I think my knee-jerk reaction, or knee-jerk answer, I should say, would actually be no, because so when you look at the ASU defense, and we'll talk about them later, in a sense, spotting the Trojans 28 points in the first quarter, that was a really deep hole to come out of, whether your quarterback was Jaden Daniels or Joe Yellen. Then you look at the play of Joe Yellen, I mean, sure, his youth definitely showed at times, and like Rob Likens said after the game, the School of Hard Knocks is probably one of the hardest schools to graduate from. But when you look at the stat line, 28 out of 44, 292 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, did have the 2 interceptions, one over here in the near corner of the end zone, close to us, one at the last drive of the game. So yes, there were two costly interceptions, but overall, I think under the circumstances, Joe Yellen did very well. I think what really surprised me, and maybe it didn't surprise others as much, but having 47 yards rushing, 2.2 yards average, a really slow and quiet day for Eno Benjamin. I personally did not see that coming, because when you look at USC's defense, in terms of the defensive rankings in the Pac-12, they are a worse rush defense than they are a pass defense. So I think that was definitely disappointing to see that Eno Benjamin and the running game at large was not able to give Joe Yellen the support. So I almost feel like maybe Joe Yellen's performance in retrospect should be even more impressive, because he got 0 support from the running game. Even in some of Jaden Daniels' better performances this year, Eno Benjamin, the running game, was definitely more effective than it was today. But I mean, it's really the same story for Arizona State. Some foolish and costly penalties on offense, drop balls, some play calling that I'm sure Rob Likens would like to have back. All of those really culminate into another Pac-12 loss for Arizona State. And again, I know that it's really easy to say, well, okay, let's write this game off because Daniels isn't playing, Joe Yellen is starting, but anybody that actually saw the game, let alone was here in Sun Devil Stadium, I think would think much differently. Even though it was a horrible 28-7 first quarter lead by USC, Arizona State came very close to a comeback.
Okay, so let's take it to the other side of the ball. ASU's defense, going into the half, it was 28-13. So the difference from the first quarter to the third and fourth quarter, what difference was this defense unit?
Much with the matchup zone and coverage. I mean, look, we knew that covering not only the best wide receiver group in the Pac-12, maybe the best receiver group in the entire nation, would be quite a challenge. And Arizona State gave up a lot of plays. The most notable one in the end zone behind us, a 95-yard touchdown pass from Keenan Slovis, really in a sense into triple coverage. There were 3 Arizona State defensive backs surrounding the USC receiver, and he still makes the play. That has to be really disappointing. When Danny Gonzalez, defensive coordinator, talked to the media after the game, he kept on mentioning that play again and again and again, and really can't blame him. That definitely was a game-changing play. But to their credit, this defense really fought, and that's why Danny Gonzalez feels that, as disappointed as everybody is right now in Tempe, and he said the coaches are even more disappointed than the fans themselves, he feels that there's still a special group, and I think their play in the second, third, and fourth quarter, only giving up 3 points, should be talked about just as much as giving up the 28 points in the first quarter. He admitted the obvious. You can't spot any team in the Pac-12, whether it's USC or anybody else, 28 points in the first quarter and expect to win. Absolutely not. But there were some costly penalties. There were some calls that probably did not go the defense's way. That Chris Thomas thought he had for a second, and they actually called for holding. That's something I think is going to stick in the craw of ASU coaches and players and fans for a long time. But I think the defense has that tendency to start out games really slow. Even in a win against Washington State, which seems like a million years ago right now, the defense did not come out of the gates strong at all. Obviously, the loss to Utah, the loss to UCLA, and now the loss to USC, the defense has a hard time getting going. like, again, to their credit, they're playing better in the second half, but sometimes when you put just so much onus on the offense, and today with the first time ever starter at quarterback, you're just asking maybe it's a little too much from the offense to play catch up with just the tools and the personnel that they have. And I think today was really another example of that. This defense has to play better, and they know that. Every team from here on out is Oregon State, Oregon, and Arizona. These are all teams that have very good offenses, not a whole lot different, even I would say inferior to what we see at USC right now. So the Arizona State defense really has to figure out things, because again, you cannot start so slow out of the gates, put so much pressure on the offense. It's great that you're playing better in the second half, but a lot of it, especially in this losing streak, a little too late.
Now, you touched on it, the 3 losses in a row. ASU's in a big funk. They head to Oregon State to take them on the road. What do they need to clean up?
Yeah, I think basically on offense, it looks like Jaden Daniels, at least as we're standing here right now, might play. So I think that can help the offense. Again, this is nothing against Joe Yellen, but obviously when you talk about the comfort level of not only the quarterback but the players around him, I think it's going to make a difference to see Jaden Daniels and not Joe Yellen over there. But I think if Joe Yellen had to start against the Beavers on the road, I think you would feel comfortable enough that he really can get the job done. Again, I thought that by and large, for a first ever start in a Pac-12 game, I thought Joe Yellen did quite well. But I think the running game, that's what really baffles me right now. Again, I know that USC definitely has some really good players in their front seven, but you do have Eno Benjamin, and for him to have just around 40 yards for the entire game, that is just really hard. And again, it doesn't matter if Jaden Daniels or Joe Yellen are doing well and throwing at a good percentage and throwing multiple touchdowns and whatnot. Right. If you do not have that running game support, we said that back in the preseason, Arizona State is not going to come on top on that many games, and today was just another painful example of that. On defense, really just to obviously clean up the slow starts some way, somehow. They just cannot put themselves in a hole. And also, I would say just the big play giving up. There were a lot of plays today that gave people nightmares from a different regime, and I won't too much that. And again, that 95-yard touchdown pass, obviously the longest play given up by the ASU defense since Herm Edwards arrived here, and probably one of the longest ever in Arizona State history. That is something that's just very painful, and that's something that's really hard to overcome mentally. I mean, that's really stating the obvious right there. So Arizona State just really has to just tighten everything up, really make sure that they do come out strong out of the gates. Pass rush, I think it's another issue that reared its ugly head today, and that's something that really has to be cleaned up. Yeah, Keaton Slovis had well over 300 yards passing in the first half alone, at I think over 450 for the entire game. But he is a very talented passer, don't get me wrong about that. But when you don't have the pass rush, and again, this has been a recurring theme for the Arizona State defense, these quarterbacks are going to complete all kinds of numbers on the Sun Devils. Today was just another example of that. So those are just really the top of the to-do list that needs to be cleaned up on both sides of the ball. But more than anything, the mental state of Arizona State. I know it's kind of ironic. We talked about it in the preview going into this game. How is this team going to respond after 2 consecutive losses? And I found that so pretty demoralizing. I know how demoralizing this loss is in comparison when he had a chance to win, which really you can't say about Utah and UCLA, but you just really have to keep their mind right. And obviously with each and every loss, it gets that much harder. That game is going to tell us a lot about this team. Today we saw a lot of fight. Again, too little, too late, but the fight was there. Just keep that fight and also make it an effective fight, if you will, in Corvallis. Maybe they can just really get off the snide, but it's only going to get tougher from here on out.
Awesome. Thank you, Hode. For more, keep it locked into DevilsDigest.com for all your pregame coverage and all week leading up to Oregon State, and, of course, postgame coverage. For Hode Rubino, I'm Sandy Charles. We'll see you next week.